welcome to CrimeDivers. I'm Laura.
And I'm Jill.
And welcome to today's episode.
Hello, everybody.
So, Jill, where in the world are we?
We are in the UK.
And the title?
House of Secrets.
Ooh.
So, just a wee trigger warning before we start. This case is about child murder. So, it's this is two teenagers.
Okay.
So, just to let anybody know if that's not something that they want to listen to, then we'll see you another time.
All right.
Okay. So, no, you're not going.
Maybe I don't want to listen to it.
Well, you have to.
Okay. Shall we dive in?
Yes. So, Sarah Barrass was a single mother to 6 children. In 2019, she was 35 and she lived with her kids in Shire Green, which is a northern suburb of Sheffield in South Yorkshire, England. Her kids were 14, 13, 11, 10, 3 and 7 months.
Jesus, that's quite a few kids.
Well, that's 6 children!
I know. Jeez,
So-
one's bad enough.
I know, eh? So as far as anyone could see, like, she was a good mum. She clearly loved her kids and would do anything for them. However, in 2018, Sarah was struggling and she reached out to social services for help. Her oldest child, Blake, who was 14, he had been diagnosed with autism and ADHD.
Right.
And he had sort of like difficulty like communicating and, you know, had sort of problems with his speech. Her second child, Tristan, who was 13, he had just been diagnosed with ADD.
Right.
And he also, you know, like had like speech and communication difficulties as well.
Yeah. So it was quite tough.
Yeah, and the two younger children, the next two children, so they were 11 and 10. They also had some additional needs, and they attended like special classes for those at school.
Right. Okay.
So she told social services that the oldest two, Blake and Tristan, were obsessed with porn, and that Tristan in particular was having behavioural issues and was constantly looking at porn on the internet.
Right.
He was also starting to bully his younger siblings, and he even stole, like, I think it was like his auntie's car or something. He stole the car at one point. Mm. So a social worker was assigned to the family, and when they investigated the family, they found Sarah to be doing her best with the kids. She would like show up at all the meetings and seemed to be doing everything that she could to support them. Mm-hmm. So the social workers were happy that the problems with any of the children's behaviours like weren't coming from how they were being treated. How they were being treated at home. Like there was no abuse or anything like that.
Yeah.
So they also looked into what support she had with the kids, like were their dads helping out. But Sarah said no dad's involved. But she had the support of her half brother, 39-year-old Brandon Mackin, who lived nearby. He was a great uncle. He would pop in every day. He would help with the kids whenever he could, and he was like a father figure to them.
Yeah.
So the social worker initially referred Sarah to an organisation called MAST, which stands for Multi-Agency Screening Team, and they aim to like ensure consistent safeguarding services to children and young people. Mm-hmm. So like different organisations like social workers, counsellors, teachers, child protection, police, they all like work together using methods to support parents and families to work on improving children's behaviour.
Right. And
also to support children with disabilities and helping them deal with any kind of trauma that they might have had in their life.
Cool.
But then, so they were initially referred to that.
Right.
But then, for whatever reason, I think it was because Sarah was dealing quite well with the kids. Like, she was showing her support to them, that they actually decided that the referral was no longer necessary.
Oh, right, okay. Maybe a bit hasty, that.
Yeah, so basically Sarah had reached out to social services for help. They came and investigated and decided, no, you're doing fine. Mm-hmm. So they didn't, like, help fix her the problems that she'd asked for help with. They were just like, no, you're all right.
But then she surely wouldn't have went to them in the first place if she didn't need help.
Well, that's it. She was struggling, so she went for help, and they were like, no, you're all right.
Or were they just looking for her, as in, was she a bad parent? And the fact that she decided that she was obviously doing her best and doing well, that, oh no, we don't need to get involved anymore. Because I suppose when you hear social services, I think it's always like a negative, where you think that it's like maybe the parents aren't looking after the child properly, or, something's going on, but
yeah.
I don't think that maybe they should just be for that in some cases, because,
Well, they're not. That's the whole point of the social services. They are there for support. It isn't just...
But it shouldn't be.
Well, they're supposed to be there for to help. You should be able to reach out to social services for help. And in some cases, that's great and it works out. But for some reason in this case, they've obviously investigated and saw that, we don't know what's happening because you're not abusing them, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. So you're fine.
Yeah.
You know, and but she went to you for help in the first place. So if your children are having behavioural problems and you're asking for help, why did she not get the help?
Yeah, exactly. If they took the time to actually, see her, investigate and looking at things, and then take the time to actually give her the support that she's obviously asking for.
Yeah. So by early 2019, Sarah was complaining that her two oldest, Blake and Tristan's behaviour was getting worse. And she said they had been inappropriate with one of their younger siblings. Blake and Tristan both had allegations made about them concerning sexual assault on another child, like out of the family. Mm-hmm. And in May, a social worker told Sarah that they were going to be having a meeting about the family, but she wasn't allowed to be there.
Right.
So Sarah began to worry that she might get her kids taken off her. She was questioned about the paternity of her children, but she wouldn't tell them, and she started to have attitude and became uncooperative with the social workers.
Right.
So they found this concerning, as they want to find out about the paternity of the children because they want to find out if the children are being exposed to any sort of abuse outside of the house, because they've obviously looked at her, everything's fine there, so they're like, just simply because a lot of children who display inappropriate sexual behaviour have been exposed to it themselves, so they're like, have they been exposed to it, and if they have, where have they been exposed to it? Yeah. And the reason that she wouldn't tell them who the children's father was, because it was her brother. So, all 6 children had the same father, and the father was her brother, her half-brother, the one who was coming in and helping out every day and acting like a father figure to them. He was actually their father, but they didn't know, the children didn't know that. He was Uncle Brandon.
Right, okay.
So nobody knew about it, only the mum and dad, brother and sister.
Did they not have looked like him, though?
Well, you can look like your uncle.
I don't know, but even half... I don't know. Maybe.
Sometimes your child looks like me in certain things. You think, yeah. So we're going to rewind back and tell you a bit about Sarah's childhood and Brandon before we get onto the crime. So I'm not sure exactly when Sarah was born, but it was in the 80s. She was one of 5 kids, and they all had different dads. So she didn't really have much stability in her life, as her mum would get a new boyfriend. Then, however long later, she would get pregnant, have a baby, and the dad would disappear. Right. Then another boyfriend would come along, and she'd have another kid, and that dad would disappear, and that's how it went on. There was 5 of them, 5 kids. And I don't think any of the fathers were involved.
Right. Okay.
In any of the children's lives. So in this house with their mum. So it was just the mum and the 5 children. It was just chaos. There were no rules. The kids could go to bed when they wanted. Their mum didn't make them dinners, so they would just grab food whenever they were hungry. And she didn't even make them go to school. It was like, well, you can go to school if you want, but I'm not really arsed whether you do or not.
Oh, that's awful.
I know. Children need routine and rules.
They need routine, rules, and education at the end of the day.
Of course.
It shows, because obviously currently in Scotland we're going through the summer holidays, and it's my daughter, she's staying up really late these days because she's not in a routine, and just I like routine.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the kids need it. And there would be visitors night and day to the house. These people would be drinking, taking drugs. There were allegations of sexual abuse and violence towards children from a very young age. Sarah in particular, allegedly suffered a lot of sexual abuse from several different people, and eventually social services got involved and all the kids were taken into care.
Right.
So Sarah must have been really young when she was being abused and when she got taken into care, because after a few years of going to different foster homes and care homes, she was placed back in her mum's home when she was 9. So all that's happened before she was 9. So
crap, that's a lot.
Yeah. And for whatever reason, I don't know why she was placed back with her mum. And I'm not sure if all the kids, I think some of the kids, it was either some of them or all of them, I don't know if it was all of them, but it was definitely some of the kids were back living with their mum.
Right.
And and her older brother Brandon was. So he was 13. So she was 9 and he was 13. Sorry. And like Sarah, he had been bounced around the care system, and now they were back living under the same roof. As I said, his name was Brandon Mackin. They had different surnames as they had different dads. So I'm not sure if there maybe was a bit of, you know how I said I didn't think the dads were involved.
Yeah. But
she does have the same surname as one of her other siblings. So
okay.
I'm not sure if some of them had their dad's names and some of them didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. So now they were back living together, they got really close. So now you would usually see that as a good thing, you know, like two siblings getting on with each other
yeah, of course, yeah.
after being apart and being close, but these kids were different. Later, one of Sarah's other brothers, Martin, he spoke to Sky News about his sister's bizarre behaviour when they were growing up, including a disturbing incident when they discovered a bird's nest. So just a wee just a wee trigger warning, there's just going to be a few seconds of animal abuse, so if you want to skip it. So her and Martin found a bird's nest and she threw stones at it and killed the two birds that were in it. Martin was really upset and he was crying, and Sarah just wasn't bothered that she had killed these two birds.
Right.
And at some point she also had pet mice and she stamped on them to kill them.
Oh, God.
Again, Martin was crying, Sarah was laughing. And as for Brandon, he was described as a bully, a troublemaker, and an incredibly violent child. For no reason, he would just attack other children, he would just start punching and kicking, and that could be anyone. He would do it to his siblings, he would do it like kids playing on the street, kids at school. And Sarah looked up to Brandon and she loved watching him get into fights at school, and she started copying his behaviour by doing the same thing, you know, getting into fights at school for no reason.
Not a great role model then.
No, and she also started bullying her siblings, and one time even pushed her sister out of a tree, and her tree, like, her sister, not the tree.
Not the tree.
I was going to say the sister had some serious injuries, not the tree.
Not the tree.
Sorry. And poor Martin, you know, the other brother that I just mentioned, he was bullied by Brandon, and one time Brandon actually picked him up, turned him upside down, so he was holding him by his legs, and he kept lifting him up and down so that his head kept whacking his head off the floor.
Oh, shit.
I know. Sarah thought that was hilarious and just stood there and watched. So nothing was ever better at home. So as I said, I don't know why the kids were placed back with their mum. And over the years, they were just like in and out of care. So they were going out of care and then getting put back with their mum. And it's like, why do you keep putting them back?
Oh, yeah.
You know, if nothing's changing.
Yeah, nothing's changing, and you're actually taking them out more than once and then putting them back. Like, you're obviously feeling the need to take them away again, but then what's convincing you to send them back again?
Exactly, like
you just have to take them out again. It doesn't, you know, you can understand that's just very unsettling for anybody, isn't it?
And the scary thing is about this. I mean, this wasn't that long ago. You know, we're talking about. I mean, if she was born in the 80s, we're talking between 80s and sort of 2000.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that long ago. Like, it's not like in the old days, you know.
No.
So it's quite scary that social services didn't seem to be doing a very good job in that case.
Yeah, no.
So, as I said, over the years they were in and out of care, and when Sarah was 14 she was placed back at her mum's for the final time. She didn't go back into care after that. And at that age she did actually go to the police to report the abuse that she'd suffered over the years, and one person was arrested, charged and found guilty of rape, but we don't know who that was, but somebody. So she, because as I said, like, you know, it was kind of allegedly, but somebody's been found guilty, so she was being abused.
Right.
So as I said, Sarah was 14 and her brother Brandon was 18, and they started to get even closer, and not in a sibling type of way. They started writing love letters to each other, which is wrong on so many levels. Like, as I said, they were half brother and sister, so of course incest is illegal, and also she was still a child, so again, illegal. He was 18 and she was 14, so
Jesus, yeah.
you know, no, so wrong.
Absolutely.
And their mum, because remember, they've got the same mum, like,
it's just so wrong.
and she actually found the letters, and she informed social services about their their children, and here I have proof, I've got evidence, and they did nothing about it. Wow. Like, what?
Yeah.
And like, why was he not being charged? Well, I mean, they're saying that at this point the relationship wasn't sexual, but how does anybody know that?
Well, exactly.
And if they're in a relationship, as I said, but because it's incest is illegal anyway, but as I said, he is an adult, so why is he not being charged with it?
Yeah, or, I don't know, like removed from the house or something, like told he's got to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, at that age he should have been. But they, as I said, like, they were saying that nothing was happening. And they said that it didn't turn physical until Sarah was 16, which is the age of consent in the UK, and that's when they started having sex. But I'm like...
Conveniently.
Well, exactly. That's exactly what you took the word right out of my mouth. I was just going to say, how convenient is that they waited? I mean, did they wait till their 16th birthday?
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So...
I'm not sure about that.
No.
I mean, we obviously don't know for sure, but...
We don't know, so we can't say, but no matter what age, it was wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
It was wrong. So, Sarah fell pregnant by Brandon at age 19, and she had their first baby, Blake, and they didn't tell anyone that, obviously, that he was the father. So she had her own house by now, and she was living by herself with the baby. So to the outside world, she looked like a single mum. She told everyone that the father didn't want to know. But really, you know, Brandon, who lived just down the road, was at the house every day helping her with the baby. So he was a dad just pretending to be a really devoted uncle.
And nobody twigged.
No? Well, why would you?
I suppose. But I mean...
I'm kind of wondering about the mother, because if the mother saw the love letters...
Yeah.
You know, kind of wonder why she didn't twig. But
Yeah.
anybody else, if your brother was coming in and helping you with your baby, why would anybody think anything of it?
I guess so.
It'd be like you, if I had a baby and you were coming in and helping me.
Yeah, but I don't know, that just makes more normal sense to me.
Do you not think that brothers going to help their sisters? Like?
Well, no, maybe not.
I think you're just thinking like that because of what you know.
Yeah.
I think in a normal circumstance, there are plenty of people who get on really well with their brothers, and their brother would go and help them.
I would know every day, I just don't, no, I don't know.
Well, I believe
That's just my opinion, it's just...
Of course it happens.
I know, I'm sure it does, but it's just, I don't think that's quite as normal as, like, a sister going in to help a sister.
Well, I do. I think it's completely normal, because it's completely normal for siblings to have normal relationships that are not incestuous. But as I said, I think because you know that this is incestuous, that's kind of clouded a bit, going,
Yeah.
But yeah, because I don't see why, and I wouldn't think anything of it if I saw somebody's brother going in and helping them out. So just a few months after giving birth to Blake, Sarah fell pregnant again and gave birth to Tristan. And again, when asked about the baby's dad, she just said he didn't want to know. Over the next couple of years, Sarah and Brandon had 2 more little boys. And again, she was asked about the dad. She said the dad doesn't want to be involved. So you would think that she would be telling them that the 4 children had different dads.
Yes.
But she didn't. She said they all had the same dad.
Oh, what? So he comes back to get his leg over, and then she falls pregnant. All right, I don't want to know, and then comes back again, and then
pretty much. I mean, like what? Like she was she was a single mum because the dad didn't want to raise the children.
But he was quite happy to do the deed,
and she was quite happy to let him do that.
Come on.
So then you would be thinking maybe, what's going on here?
Yeah.
The years passed, and Brandon and Sarah carried on their sexual relationship. No one knew about it, and just thought that Sarah was a single mum, and Brandon was helping raise his nephews. When the kids started to get older, they obviously started asking about their dad. Now, Sarah told them that their dad was a war hero and he died in World War II.
Well, that's very impossible.
So I've no idea when she thought the war was.
Or what year did she think it was?
Because if she'd actually just, had a quick Google to see when the war was, she would have seen that World War II ended in 1945. So you're talking about maybe 60 years before the kids were born. And
considering she was also born in the 80s,
yeah,
I mean...
Exactly.
also exactly. Impossible.
But the kids were obviously still young enough that they wouldn't know any different,
no.
because they were still young. I mean, you're talking about maybe 4 or 5 years old,
exactly.
So they're not going to know that. So they're like, oh, my dad was a war hero. So he died. So he was a war hero, he died in the war.
Sorry.
So,
It's just so bad.
oh, it gets worse. So, as we know, Brandon and Sarah went on to have a couple more kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they were both boys as well. So they actually had 6 boys. Can you imagine? Whoa.
Wow.
6 kids, but even 6 girls. I think just...
6
yeah. But, so they had 6 boys, but Sarah wanted a girl. So they even started trying for a 7th baby.
For God's sake.
But what was weird, though, was when Sarah was asked who these 2 babies' dad was, she said they all had the same dad. But yet nobody had ever seen her with a man. But she did say it was just a guy that she would have sex with when she wanted a baby. So she was saying that she was using him. And
Okay.
when she wanted a kid,
Right,
she would go and have sex with him. But I've no idea how she was going to explain to the kids that they were, when they were older, like how the first 4 boys' dads died in World War II, 60 years before they were born, and then came back a decade later, and then had another 2 kids.
Oh my God,
like, how are you going to explain that?
That is ridiculous. Like, how dumb do you need to be?
So I don't, like, obviously that was just the kids that she'd told. Because obviously adults are going to know that he wasn't in the war.
No, exactly.
But yeah, it's just ridiculous. I mean, if you're going to come up with a lie, I mean, at least come up with something believable.
Yeah, better than that.
That you can tell the kids all their lives,
Aye.
not just like when they're 4 or 5.
Well, exactly, because you kind of tell them that as they get older and they're at school, and then they're like, oh, like, Mum, I've learnt about, like, the dates of World War II today, and I put my hand up in class and said that my dad was there.
I know, can you imagine? They're learning about the war and they put their hand up and say, oh, my dad was in World War II.
Yeah.
Like,
And it's just
seriously.
Probably, it's just probably like, do you not mean like your granddad or
great-granddad.
Yeah. I don't know, my dad. I think you've got that one wrong.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was I just found that bizarre.
Yeah, that's really not great.
So both Brandon and Sarah weren't working. So Brandon would come at the house every morning at 7 a.m. and he'd spend all day there. And from what I've read about the case, I mean, he seemed to be a good dad / uncle. He would look after the kids, he would change their nappies, feed them, bathe them, put them to bed. He would do the household chores, he'd do the food shopping, he'd take the kids to school. Sarah would just sit on her arse all day. And Brandon would do everything. He basically waited on her hand and foot and she didn't really have to lift a finger, apart from, obviously, she'll have to during the night, like with the baby. She would have been feeding the baby and stuff, because he would go home every night. But yeah, apart from that, she didn't do anything. So that was basically a bit of background. Yeah. So that brings us back to Sarah being worried about the children being taken off her.
Yeah.
So she sent some concerning messages to a friend, saying things like that she couldn't put the children into care because she loved them too much, that she couldn't kill them because she loved them too much.
Sorry? Why would you even consider that?
As she mentioned suicide and mass murder at some point as well. One message read, quote, I still feel like I feel Blake, so this isn't helping. I feel like I should lock me and my lot away so they can't hurt anyone else. I want to die daily, to run away and hide from everyone.
I think some of their problems would have come from the fact that...
That's incest, yeah, exactly.
That's been the reason for
their difficulties.
Stuff.
Yeah.
That's.
It'll more than likely be, at least for some of their problems anyway. Because obviously I know that kids with non-related parents obviously can have difficulties as well. But I think in this case, I mean, to have I think the 2 younger kids, the 3-year-old and the 7-month-old, they'll have been too young to have been assessed, you know.
Yeah.
But the 4 older kids all had difficulties, so, you know.
Yeah.
And she sent a message to Brandon which read, quote, they need to die now. I'd rather kill them and kill myself than lose them to care. I gave them life and I can take it away.
Wow.
So, because this is all because she just didn't want them going into care because she was worried about getting her kids taken off her.
But yeah,
so,
why is she worried now when they've kind of been on and off being taken off her?
They haven't been taken off her. That was when she was a child.
Oh, God, I totally got myself mixed up there. Yes, sorry. Totally got
that was
myself
her when
mixed
she
up.
was a child.
Yes, sorry.
So now that she's an adult,
yeah, you're right, aye.
and she's worried about getting her kids taken off her because her kids are having behavioural problems, and Tristan and Blake have been accused of inappropriate sexual behaviour, right?
Right.
So that's where we're at.
Yes.
I get because it was kind of the childhood was kind of.
Yes,
I get why you got confused.
Yes.
So this is her now going. I don't want them taken off me. So what am I going to do? Am I going to lock us all away? Am I going to kill myself? Am I going to kill them? So on the 23rd of May 2019, Sarah received a call from someone who told her that Tristan had allegedly carried out another sexual assault against another child and that she was going to report it to the police the next day. So Sarah messaged Brandon again, this time saying, quote, "They need to die now, they need to die today." So Sarah and Brandon decided that they couldn't let anyone find out their secret because social services were closing in and that could lead to them finding out their dirty little secret. They proved that they would do anything to stop anyone from finding out.
Right.
So on the following day, so the morning of the 24th of May 2019, the police received a call saying they were concerned about the safety of the children who lived in Sarah's house. Within minutes, 4 ambulances and 15 police cars arrived at the property.
Oh, wow.
And when they entered, they found Brandon sitting on the couch drinking an energy drink, and Sarah was in a bedroom with the 4 younger kids. The 2 oldest, Blake and Tristan, they were in their beds and they both had plastic bags over their heads. Brandon and Sarah were immediately arrested. So basically, what had happened was they decided they were going to murder all 6 of their children. Sarah had gone to the chemist and picked up ADHD medication because I think the 4 children were all on that. So they would have had quite a lot of medication.
Yep.
But I think she'd actually tried to get more as well. She'd phoned like the doctors and stuff and tried to get more, but I think you can only get prescribed so much.
Yeah.
But she did get the ones that were ready to be picked up. And later that day, when she was texting friends and family, she just kind of casually mentioned that all the kids had come down with a sickness bug, and so they wouldn't be at school the next again day. So obviously that was so nobody would be like, where are they? So that night, her and Brandon then forced the 4 older boys to swallow God knows how many ADHD pills. And when they thought that they had given them enough to kill them, they put them to bed. Sarah went to bed, Brandon went home. So the next morning, when Sarah went into the older kids' bedroom, she was surprised to find that they were all still alive. They all felt really ill because of all the pills that they'd taken, but they hadn't died like Sarah had expected. So she'd been expecting to walk into the rooms and find her children dead.
That's awful.
And Blake and Tristan, they even got up and started playing on their Nintendo Switch. Because they said to their mum they really didn't feel well enough to go to school.
Yeah.
So, but they were, wanted to have a shot in their Nintendo. So Sarah messaged Brandon and he came over and they were furious that the kids had survived. And they went into Blake and Tristan's bedroom and Sarah took the cord off her dressing gown and strangled Tristan with it.
Right.
And while she was doing that, Brandon went over to Blake and strangled him with his bare hands. When they thought they were dead, they put them into their beds and then they put plastic bags over their heads just to make sure that they were actually, to kill them. They then went into the bathroom and filled the bath with water and they tried to drown their 3rd oldest, but for whatever reason, luckily, they didn't manage to drown him. So now Sarah's thinking, well, what do I do now? I don't know if it's because the 3rd murder attempt didn't work. She decided that she couldn't go through with trying to kill the rest of the children, and she decided to blame Blake and Tristan's murder on Brandon.
Right, okay.
So she grabbed the 4 remaining kids and barricaded them and herself in one of the bedrooms. She started writing on the notes app on her phone, and she wrote, quote, "Brandon is the dad to all the kids. The pills didn't work, so he had me kill Tristan and he's killed Blake. I'm sat here with the others. He's going to kill them, then me. He's tried to drown the 3rd child, like the name of the 3rd child. It's not working. I'm so scared." And in another note she wrote, "If by some miracle my kids live, please look after them and make sure they know I love them." Then she sent a text message to one of her friends saying he's trying to kill us and Tristan and Blake are already dead. So that was the person that phoned the police. Okay. So that's why so many police had turned up, because they said, look, I think there's dead children
here and maybe more to come.
Yeah. And I read a couple of different reports, and in one report, as I said, the police had came in and she was she'd barricaded herself in with the 4 younger children, But in another report, I read that they were unconscious.
Right.
So I'm not. If they were unconscious, I don't know how they were unconscious. But I read that they were conscious by the time they got to the hospital. So I'm not really sure. Well, but luckily
they were
the other kids were fine. So Sarah and Brandon both confessed to what had happened, and they were charged on 2 counts of murder for Blake and Tristan, conspiracy to murder all 6 children, and attempted murder for Blake, Tristan, and the 3rd child, because they had the attempted murder charge. Even though they murdered them, they tried to murder them the night before with the pills.
That's right, yeah.
And attempted murder for the 3rd child that they tried to drown. So they were both sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 35 years. A family friend spoke to the press after the sentencing, and he said, quote, "Blake and Tristan were 2 beautiful, confident and outgoing boys who both had a bright future ahead of them. They had so many friends and they lit up any room they were in, especially Tristan, who loved to dye his hair bright colours. Daily life will never be the same again now. The boys have left behind younger siblings whose lives have been turned upside down. They adored their older brothers and they looked up to them. The boys have also left behind close family, friends and younger children who looked up to them and who saw them on a regular basis. And this tragedy hasn't just affected those close to them, but the whole community too. A piece of our hearts died on the 24th of May 2019, which we will never get back. Blake and Tristan leave a huge empty void in our lives and we did not get the chance to say goodbye. We are relieved justice has been served, but it should never have come to this. We cannot put into words the pain and emptiness we feel, but we find some comfort in knowing Blake and Tristan will always be remembered and how loved both boys were." End quote. So the murders were at like an end terrace house. So after the sentencing, the Housing Association applied for planning permission to demolish it and construct like a memorial on its site. So that was granted, and the house was demolished on the 17th of February 2021.
Wow. There you go.
So imagine, like, no.
I mean, that is awful. I mean,
they just wanted to kill their children just to hide the fact that they were sleeping together.
Yeah.
And that they had a relationship.
You know, fair enough that the boys in it had some behavioural problems and stuff like that and difficulties.
But it's not surprising.
Well, exactly. I mean, yeah. But, you know, they didn't deserve that, no.
No. Nobody deserves that, to be killed by their parents.
I'm just glad that they didn't obviously succeed with the younger ones as well, because, I mean, it's bad enough that they've killed the 2 older ones, but at least 4 lives were spared.
And what kind of life are they going to have, though? Yeah. Knowing that their 2 oldest brothers are dead and they were killed by their parents, and that their parents are actually brother and sister.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're receiving the support that they deserve and need.
Yeah, I would think so. So thank you to everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you later. Bye.